We are back with part two of the Game Babes, where we're covering our favorite music and video game trailers. And we last time I started off, then Pixel got through his, and Msmoon got through her trailers, but still needed to cover her music. Um, So I think that's where we're gonna pick up, and we have special guest Zanya joining us because we're all having a chat earlier, and Zanya is gonna stick around, might come up with a couple music or trailer recommendations herself.
Hey everyone.
But yeah, Miss Moon, I suppose is a new podcast. So quickly, I'll go around kind of the virtual room. I'm Filbert. Then we have Pixel.
Hello.
We have Miss Moon,
How's it going, everybody?
Shadow,
Hey, hey, hey.
and again, special guest Zanya.
Hey everybody.
But yeah, Miss Moon, we had left it off where you had just finished up your trailer, so we have your music. You do have an honorable mention, but yeah, I'll just let you kind of take over. Let me know if you want me to play them from 1 to 5, 5 to 1. But we can start with your kind of honorable mention, and just tell me when to click play, and I will.
Okay. So in case it wasn't known already, I love music, especially video game soundtracks. So, they're one of my earliest musical influences as a child. So, putting this list together, like I was telling Filbert earlier, took me forever to finally decide on them. But I want to start by one honorable mention, and what I'm gonna do for the 5 songs, Filbert. After the honorable mention, we'll do the 1 through 5,
All right.
and if it's okay, if I could just say a little thing about it, and then we'll play the whole song, and then I'll um, pick it up with a comment afterwards.
Yep, works perfect.
Okay. All right. So the honorable mention is from A Plague Tale Requiem. Um, and that's the song name. And it's what you first hear on the title screen. And at a certain moment in the game that I can't spoil, which would be really hard to kind of explain why I picked it, because it will spoil the game. But there is just something so impactful about this song because it really highlights the relationship between the two main characters, Amicia and Hugo, who are brother and sister. And in this game, you're traveling through France during the Black Plague. And the little twist in this game is that the Black Plague has a supernatural twist to it. And so you're kind of going with them on their travels through the Black Plague as they try to survive it, basically. But there will be a point in the game where you will have to make a decision, and part of this song plays during it. And for me personally, it was probably one of the hardest hitting moments I've experienced in a video game so far. Um, and I wish I could say more, but I know it's just gonna spoil it. But it's a beautiful song nonetheless, even if you've never played the game. So I just wanted to give it an honorable mention.
All right, I'll kick it off real quick. Oh, let me share so you guys can listen in. Let me share my VCL. right.
All right. So, yes, that was a Plague Tale Requiem. I admit I have a hard time listening to that song without wanting to get emotional about it because I'll quickly say this. If you're into adventure games like this, it kind of has a Last of Us feel to it, but it's not a clone in any way. It's a really great game that I recommend that really highlights the bond between those two characters. And oh, did you want to say something, Filbert?
Oh, I was just gonna say, because there's two games. Is this the first or the second? 'Cause
Oh, this is the second.
the second. All right. Yeah, because I haven't played them. I know because of you. I've heard they're really good. I also kind of get the feel. Did you ever play Brothers: The Tale of Two Sons?
I haven't, but it made me think about it because I
Yeah.
was aware of that game.
So
Yeah.
it kind of makes you wonder if it's kind of like that game, which I did play that game, and uh, that game it was interesting because it was part of, without going into spoilers, mechanically how you play the game, like with the controller changes at one point because of an
Oh,
event that happens, and it was just a very interesting way of like the narrative impacting how you literally controlled the game. But yeah, I've picked up those vibes that it's like that type of like story possibly, and I do need to check it out sometime.
yeah, you're right on the money about that. That's why I want to try playing Brothers, based on a Plague Tale. But yeah, similar to what you said, the scene I'm referencing, um, what makes it so effective is it wasn't relegated to a cutscene, but it was something that you as the player had to do yourself. And what they were asking you to do was, yeah, I can't say anymore,
Oh
but
yeah,
needless to say, it was effective. It was bold, but it was effective,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
it sat with me for a couple of days after I played it.
Yeah, not to go on a tangent, but that's like one of the my favorite things about games. Going back to our favorite Metal Gear Solid, like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3, when you have to pull the trigger. Like I know,
Yeah,
like me and all my friends, like the first time you play that game, you sit there at that part and like set the controller, and like I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, but
right.
but you
That's
have to
exactly
pull.
what I did. I set that controller down for like a good 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm not doing this. But what about everybody else? Do you like these types of games, or have you ever been curious about them?
Well, these two games are on my wish list. I haven't gotten around to picking them up yet, but it's definitely on my list.
Oh,
I
nice.
I will say that a Plague Tale, those games are not necessarily games that I would play, but they are games I love to watch. And a lot of those third-person type of games are kind of fall in that same category. Plague Tale is one I would love to watch somebody play, and I think Rachel would probably would be somebody that would play that. She has played the first one, and I have yet to see her play the second one.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, definitely. The part two takes it even farther than part one. It's my favorite out of the two, but yeah, I hope she can play it. All right. Um, so I guess we will move on to the top five, and we're gonna start with uh, "Shadow of the Colossus," and the song is called "Prologue." It's actually one of the very first tracks that you'll hear in the game. And just to provide a little bit of context, this story takes place in like a fantasy setting where you assume a role of a character named Wander, who enters this vast, isolated, abandoned region known as the Forbidden Land, and he's seeking power to revive a girl named Mono. And to do that, he has to destroy 16 colossi in total. So that's just kind of the premise of the game. And so this song, Prologue, kind of starts it off, showing you making that journey um, to begin. So, track 1. All right. So that was Prologue. This song is just another great example of what a strong opening is um, with strong music. I know I feel like we talked about this a little bit during the last podcast with Tara's theme, and seeing her with Biggs and Wedge, trudging through the snow and seeing the credits roll, and while that theme is playing, it sets the scene of the beginning of a journey. And for me, with this song in particular, it brings that feeling back. Like it's a call to adventure that sets the stage for what's ahead. And in a world like the Forbidden Land, it's such a vast, empty space, like filled with ruins and old relics of the past. But there's just something about that song that I feel like captures the awe and sense of wonder about what you're about to experience. And I don't know if any of you have had experience with this game in particular.
It's another game that I just I know quite a bit about it, but I've never actually played it myself. It's like one of those. I think I would enjoy it if I ever sat down and played it, but I do know it has very good music.
Yeah, the entire soundtrack is there's really not one weak track on this one.
Well, for me, I have the game sitting in my shelf, collecting dust for years now. I'm a bit terrified to play, to be honest, because the first game I played from the studio was The Last Guardian, and I don't have a great taste in my mouth after playing that game, so I'm a bit cautious to play another game from the studio, to be quite honest with you. But I do want to play it one day, but I just need to gather the strength and courage, I suppose.
Well, Shadow, I think that you absolutely should because I have played this game and I love this game. In fact, I've played it many times, and this game is not at all like The Last Guardian. In fact,
Yeah.
as you're going through Shadow of the Colossus, you're not really relying too much on the AI sort of doing what you want it to do. This game isn't made the same way. I mean, they're separated by almost like 10 or 11 years of development. So a lot of different people worked on both games. But the way that they wanted this game to focus on the character and how you interact with the world is different than how they did it in The Last Guardian. But I will say my experience with this game is I did play this when it came out. And it was kind of during a really weird time in my life. I was actually going through a lot of hardship, and I played this for the first time at my best friend's house. And he had his PS2 hooked up. I didn't have mine hooked up at the time. But I picked it up from GameStop. We both went to GameStop, and I grabbed it. I think I saw it in like a I don't know. It was like a discount bin, as far as I remember. And this is like back in 2007, I think. And I loaded it up and I was immediately drawn in by the game. I was really enamored with the music, the world, and the tone that it was trying to set. It's very somber, very melancholic, and just kind of depressing, but in a very like curious way. It doesn't make you feel like you're overwhelmed with this sense of grief. It makes
Yeah.
you curious to play more and more, but as you play more and more, you kind of start to feel like something is wrong. Like something is not right here. Like there's this overwhelming foreboding sense of darkness and sadness that's kind of like present in the game's world, but you don't really know how it plays out. And the music really drives that home as you fight against more colossi and you take them down. You start to kind of understand like what's happening with the story and the main character and um, kind of what's going on with the game's world more than anything else. I don't want to spoil too much. It's easy to kind of reveal everything that happens in the game, but the music is awesome. I mean, this game's soundtrack was one of my choices for top five, and it was very hard to choose one on that list. Ultimately, I didn't do it because I had a really hard time finding a song I wanted to stick with because I'm like, man, these are all so good. I really don't know. But I will say that as far as my top 10 soundtracks of all time, this is definitely on there easily.
I I agree with that 100%. Yeah, it's always on my top 10 somewhere. Um, it will never leave that list because yeah, like I said earlier, every track is just amazing, and I know I keep using this word, but it's just awe-inspiring, really, when you listen to it all the way through.
It is, and it really amazes me that the game can convey so much narrative and storytelling without ever really even saying a word. That's what really amazes me about the game is like you're playing through it and it's like it's telling you the story of Wander and what he's going through and why these colossi are important, why they inhibit this land, or I should say inhabit this land. why they're here, what their importance is, and it does all of this without even really a whole lot of dialogue being exchanged in the game at all. It's pretty
That is
amazing.
true. Yeah, that is true. But uh, but yeah, so that was from Shadow of the Colossus. Um, please buy it and listen to it. um, so let's move on to number 2, and this is from Near Automata, and this track is called "A Beautiful Song." And the premise for this game is it's set during a proxy war between alien created machines and human created androids that has been going on for decades, with mankind having no choice but to escape to the moon as a last resort. So, right off the bat, the story is a little kind of out there with, machines fighting a war for humans. Um, but all I can say about the plot, because this is another one of those stories where you can only reveal so much before you spoil the whole thing. So, but what I will reveal in this track is it's a boss battle with a machine, and her name is Simone. And so you're gonna see the battle play out while the song is playing, because I wanted to have a visual for you to kind of understand um, kind of the context of what the song is about. Um, so the machine herself, she resembles an opera singer, and she is someone that is obsessed with beauty. So she's using songs in which you'll hear an operatic voice singing. She'll use her songs to hijack other androids so that she can cannibalize them and make herself look like the most beautiful machine of all. So when you look at the battle and see her design, you'll be able to understand that she's trying to make herself look more beautiful and look like the prettiest machine of all. And the reason why she's doing that is the machines themselves, on both ends, they're mimicking human behaviors. So in this story, it's not a question of whether or not, um, if they're capable of human emotions. They are, but it's more of a mirror of how we look at our own behaviors through these machines. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. So let's start with A Beautiful Song.
All right, here it goes.
Hey, so I wanted to have that video playing so you could see what she looks like. Like, for example, you can see those androids like strapped against her dress. Um, the point of that is she is taking to the extreme, um, and you know, an aspect of human nature, wanting to look good for someone else. In this case, who she was trying to look good for doesn't even pay any attention to her or love her back. So she obsesses over it to the point where she turns herself into this just to get his attention, even though she never will. Um, and so this is one of my favorite games most of all, but this is one of my favorite battles because I think after this part, there was I realized there was more to this game than I realized. It's not just about a war between machines for humans. And I can't spoil any more as to why they're, you know, replicating human emotions and trying to act like them. That is really going to spoil the whole thing. But when you see them trying to be human, it really teaches you a lot about certain aspects of human behavior, like through a different lens than just seeing it through, you know, another person in this story. So, but yeah, I love this game so much. I don't know if anybody else ever played it before or.
It's another one that I know a little bit about, but have not played. I think this is like the first time I've actually seen like combat of it, not just
Oh, I
like
love the combat.
cutscenes. And the combat, it was selling me. It looked pretty interesting and fun with how it was kind of going.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is very fluid, very smooth. It's still one of my most favorite combat systems down to this day.
but yeah, it's another game. I'll have to listen to some of the other music in it because I do know it is like a very like beloved game. It, it as silly as it is for me, it's one of those games like I always see the title and see like the cover and it just doesn't grab me.
Oh yeah.
um and of course the classic don't judge a book by its cover, but yeah, it was a uh kind of what I could expect, some very unique like music for what I reckon is a very unique and interesting game in both story like narrative and gameplay.
Very unique. And one of my favorite aspects to this soundtrack is the lyrics that you saw on the screen. It's the vocals are actually a bunch of made up gibberish. It's not an actual language. Um, what they did was just under inspiration, they borrowed from different languages and jumbled them around to make it sound like a completely different one. Since they're technically a good couple thousand years into the future. So they tried to make it sound like a very futuristic language, from you know, different from something that we couldn't comprehend today. So I thought that was really cool.
Not to be a broken record, but I have had played this one either. So I was questioning myself, do I even play video games after doing this?
Oh my goodness. I question that all the time when I hear some of these titles. You're not alone.
Well, I mean, I'm right there with you. There are a lot of popular games that are out there that I don't play. And sometimes I think to myself, do I even really play games? Like, am I actually a gamer? I guess I'm not. But anyway, I will say I love this game too. And Miss Moon, I think you and I are going to share a lot of the same likes because Nier Automata is amazing. It's a fantastic game. This is a game that has combat that's so similar to Final Fantasy Remake in a way, except if you take out, and I know I've been open about this, but if you take out the parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat system that I don't like, that's what Nier Automata's combat system is to me. And I
Oh.
love the combat system in this game. It's so good. it kind of avoids a lot of the what I consider mistakes that remake does have. But again, those are kind of my own personal preferences. Not to say that they're factually issues, but just issues I have with that game specifically. Um, and Nier itself, or I should say Nier Automata, has really good music, like really amazing music. I was actually considering uh, a song from this game to also be in my top five as well, and that would have been the one that's called "The Song of the End," as far as I remember, or "The End of the World," or something like that. It's
That's a
on.
good one,
It's a
yes.
really good one, and I had considered it for a while. I ultimately decided against it, but again, this Nier Automata is just one of those games where the soundtrack is just so good. Like there are so many good tracks in this game. I mean, even just the basic stuff. Like you could be going to a village and you'll be like, wow, this is amazing. You could be doing a boss fight and you're like, wow, this is incredible. You could be doing anything and you're just like, oh my God, this blows me away. I'm so impressed by this. And yeah, Nier Automata, if you haven't played it, please do.
Yes. And one more thing I'll say about the soundtrack is I love how even though it's set in a very futuristic time, I love how ancient and ethereal it still sounds. Like there's almost like a contradiction with what you're hearing versus what you're seeing, but it
It's so
works.
true. It's so true because it has this almost like I don't want to say tribal, but it has this kind of like almost otherworldly feel to it, but it's a game that focuses on you fighting machines, except that's not what like what you're seeing is that, but what you're hearing is not that.
Right, exactly. So, yes, and it still blows my mind that the composer also wrote for Tekken music on a couple of titles. So the fact that he wrote this, that's just amazing to me. But yeah, definitely check that soundtrack out. Even if you don't play the game, the music by itself is beautiful.
And how about that ending credits song? Tell me about that.
Oh
That is so good.
my goodness, don't get me started on that one. Okay, so we're gonna move on to number three, and it's a Final Fantasy track at last. Um, I had to discipline myself and just pick one for the top five because my whole list probably would have ended up being related to Final Fantasy in some way. But the track that I chose was the Coin Song, which is you could call Edgar and Sabin's theme from Final Fantasy VI, but um, this song in particular is actually from World of Final Fantasy. Now, I don't know. World of Final Fantasy is one of those games that it came out a few months before Final Fantasy 15, and I feel like it kind of got missed a little bit. I feel like not as many people paid attention to it because 15 was just right around the corner. But it is a cute, it's such a cute little game. Um, I feel like it's Final Fantasy for little kids, um, where you have two characters that are a brother and sister, and they're traveling around different worlds to stop what is called the Bahamutian army um, that are threatening these different worlds. And along the way, you'll run into different Final Fantasy characters that will come to your aid, especially during battle. They'll help you during that. And two of the characters, Edgar and Sabin, are featured in it. But I wanted to play their song in particular because I think it's such an interesting rendition from the original. So here
I'll,
is Coin Song.
I'll be interested to hear this because that might be one. It's top three favorite songs for me from that game. So I'm interested to hear this version of it.
I think you might be a little surprised. All right. So that sounds a little different from the more somber
Yeah, definitely a
tone of the
change up.
original.
Although I think what
Mhm.
caught me off the most was the kind of Funko Pop Edgar at the start. I was like, wait.
But it's the remake you all wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, yeah, I love this track, this rendition of Coin Song, because that is actually one of my most favorite tracks off of the Final Fantasy VI original soundtrack. And when I heard it the first time, it it almost gives off like you're watching a Saturday morning cartoon, like featuring a superhero. I don't know if that's the image you got when you heard it, but there's just something so triumphant about it and positive that it's like a completely different from the original, and I love that. And a lot of songs off of the World of Final Fantasy soundtrack are like that in a way. There's all these different renditions of, the popular tracks throughout FF, um, that are really nice renditions that keep it reminds you of how well written these songs are. And because of that, it's one of my favorite soundtracks that I listen to quite often. I don't know if
I would,
anybody else has.
yeah, it does. I always forget his name, Nobo Nitsamaro, or
But
yeah. It, the one thing I loved about this rendition is how he is really big into like heavy metal, like classic heavy metal, like kind of 80s
Oh yeah.
rock. And obviously, like the Super Nintendo, you couldn't get that through. But I think it shows a lot of these tracks that he wrote, especially like Dancing Mad has a part where it goes straight to like a metal song. Um, like in the third part of that song. But it shows like a lot of this music, you feel his metal guitar, like when that guitar comes on, that's just like a riff from an 80s rock like a progressive rock band song. And it's so fun to hear because again, you're not used to hearing it played in this type of rendition, so that it was very cool. And I'm hydrating,
Yeah.
but just with Guinness bacon.
Yeah, I forget that Nobuo Uematsu, he's a big fan of like prog rock.
Yep.
I remember reading that he's really into that style of music, and it does show in a lot of it, especially his earlier works. So yeah, it was perfect for this rendition. Right. So with that said, I guess we can move on to the next track. Um, and this one is from Chrono Trigger. And this one is called Corridor of Time. And this one is set during 12,000 BC. And this is where a magical kingdom is floating like in the sky. And so you're kind of walking around this palace surrounded by books and people. And when you listen to this track, I wish there was a visual to see what um, that timeline looks like once you get there. But it is perfectly fitting, given the setting, because these people, they're able to use magic and they're surrounded by all these books, constantly studying and learning. Um, they were definitely living during an enlightened period. So I love this song. It's simple, but it's effective. So this is Corridor of Time. Okay, that was Corridor of Time. Um, I love Chrono Trigger soundtrack. It is a classic for me. It if I had a permanent top 10, it would definitely be in the top 3 because I grew up listening to those songs like day in and day out. And you know, I was struggling between picking a song from this and Chrono Cross because I feel like, since the release of Chrono Cross, you can't mention one without the other because I feel like they're both complementary to each other. But just singling this one out, I think what Yasunori um, Mitsuda does so well with both soundtracks, and in particular Chrono Trigger, is he really knows how to capture like the nature of time itself, how it feels, whether it's the different timelines that you visit or just the different emotions you experience at any given time. He really knows how to capture that in audio form, and I honestly feel like no other composer could have done the series justice, which is why it's just such a masterpiece in my mind. But Filbert,
Well,
you know what I'm about to ask.
I
You,
I feel like we're on opposite sides of a lot of spectrums because Chrono Trigger is another game. It's been on my to playlist for like 30 years now, and I've never played it other than like the first like 30 minutes way back. Uh, I my brother's friend. Uh, I know a lot of the music because it's around. I somehow have really never been spoiled to Chrono Trigger. Uh,
oh really?
I know there's aspects of like time travel, and it's famous for having multiple endings. I think part of the reason I never played it way back in the '90s was when I was young and dumb, because I was like 8, 9 years old. Uh, Final Fantasy VI was my favorite game of all time, and I'm sure you all were on many debates where people always brought up Chrono Trigger is better than Final Fantasy VI, or I guess 3 as we called it back then. And
Yeah, yeah.
that was just the dumbest shit I've ever heard. So I hated the game almost because of that argument, even though I'd never played it. Um, but yeah, I I have it set up and stuff to play an emulator. It's actually like a game I'm looking to probably play on stream here sooner than later. It's just I gotta just start it. I know as soon as I start it, I'll just knock it out because I know it's not a super long game, but uh, I'm almost sure I'll love it just from the opinions of people who tend to like a lot of the RPGs I like, who love it. it so yeah, I just need to play it.
And that's understandable. I was fortunate enough for this to be like my first real RPG before Final Fantasy VI. So it's what really opened the door for me to the world of JRPG. So I think that's a big reason why it has such a big impact on me. Um, but yeah, but for people that say they've never played it or they know about it but just never got around to it, um, I know there's some people out there that treat them like that's just sacrilegious, but it's really okay. It's just it's just one of those things you kind of had to be there when it came out, and if you weren't, you know, that's no problem at all.
Yeah, I think I talked to Drum a little bit from Backloggery about it, and he's kind of in the same boat. A few years ago, he saw me finally played it for the first time, and he's just like, I really recommend it. But he's like me; he's just like, it's just one of those games forever. He just didn't play for just not specific reason, and then finally got around to playing it a few years ago. I forget when, but um,
How
so
about you?
I gotta ask you, Msmoon, which is the better game? Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI. And this goes
Oh
for you too,
dear.
Pixel.
Oh, this is a tough one because you know what's strange? In my household, the debate was is Final Fantasy VII better than Chrono Trigger? Six was never really a part of the argument for some
Oh,
reason, even though we loved it to death. So oh, that is such a hard one because they both fight for dominance. Some days it changes, but I'm gonna have to give seven.
7?
Just
That's cheating.
is that cheating, really?
All right, Pixel. I gotta know from you.
So I played Chrono Trigger a little bit later after Final Fantasy VI, and I do love both games. Final Fantasy VI was one that I experienced by myself. Chrono Trigger was one that I experienced with my best friend. And I have been open in the past that I played a lot of games with my best friend, starting with Final Fantasy VII, basically through 10. And during that period, Chrono Trigger was one of those games that we kind of played together. And it was a game that we definitely both liked, and a little bit late in its. I'm going to back up here. We were a little bit late to experience it because we had already moved on to the PS1 by the time we got around to it. So it's probably 98, 99. And when we did, like I said, we really enjoyed it, but we weren't quite as enamored with it as a lot of other people were. I do recognize that it is a very good game, and indeed it is. I mean, it was a super group of people coming together to make this game. And the people involved, I mean, are all legends, like it was something really incredible back then. And I think it still holds up today. I think it's got great gameplay. It's got great music. There's a lot to like about it. But I'll be honest, it didn't quite hit as hard for me as it did for most other people, especially people that I see talk about it online. So for me, it's an easy pick for Final Fantasy VI because I have more personal ties to that than I do Chrono Trigger. But if I were to say factually between the two, what a better game is, um, it's a really hard choice because I think there are things that Final Fantasy VI does better than Chrono Trigger and vice versa. I think that Chrono Trigger, as great as it is, I'll be honest, doesn't have a really amazing story, and that's generally why I get into RPGs. So, as much as I do like it, I think it has a very solid story, but it doesn't have a really like, wow, this is an emotional, mind-blowing experience. I just never really got that from Chrono Trigger. But gameplay wise, and as far as music goes, I think it's fantastic. But I would still lean into Final Fantasy VI kind of being the top for me.
And what about you, Shadow? Have you ever played Chrono Trigger?
You know what? I can finally say I have played Chrono Trigger and I have played Final Fantasy VI. And for a discussion who I think is the better game, I would go with Final Fantasy VI because it just hit me more. I also think the music is a bit better, but Chrono Trigger is a very good game, and I would say Chrono Trigger is a must-play game if you are a JRPG fan. I wouldn't say that about Final Fantasy VI though, so that can be a bit contra- yeah, I want to remember how to say that, but yeah, it sounds a bit weird to say that, but I do think it has so good foundation. Chrono Trigger. It's easy to get into, even though Bacon here says it's hard. But I think you get
Oh,
into the
shots fired.
I think you get in the action faster than most JRPGs. If I'm not mistaken, it's been 5 years since I played it, so my memory can be a bit hazy. But yeah, I think it's a very good game, and it's a miracle it's not on any modern systems other than the PC port.
You know, I totally understand where Shadow's coming from too, because I think it's a really amazing game, and I still hold that opinion. It's not one that hit me personally as hard as other people, but I do recognize that it still, again, holds up very, very, very well. It's got great gameplay that I think a lot of people can really kind of jive with. They can sort of jump in right away and understand how the game works. And yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic experience. People still talk about it today for a very good reason. Um, and yeah, I just think it's a great game. I also want to add too that I'm kind of more on Dave's side of things when it comes to the Chrono series, where I actually enjoyed Cross more than I did Trigger. And I know that that's a heinous thing to say. I know a lot of people will take umbrage with that, but Cross just kind of hit me more. It felt like a more emotional experience, and I like the music more. And even though it really isn't much to do with Chrono Trigger at all, and it's a very different game, it's still within the Chrono series, and I still really did enjoy that. But I do recognize that Trigger, again, it's a legendary JRPG. People will talk about this game 30 years in. You know, it's still strong today.
And just briefly, if you did have to put a gun to my head and I had to pick between Chrono Trigger and Six, I would pick so I don't cheat, Filbert. Um, I would pick Chrono Trigger, and I think a lot of that stems from even though we played both games relatively close to each other. I think for me, the main thing is that Chrono Trigger was like my first real experience with a game like that and with storytelling and characters um, like that. And so it stuck with me. And so from there, I went on to Six and onward. So I have a big bias towards the game for that reason alone. But it's a narrow difference between Trigger and Six. It is very hard to decide. All right, so the last song is going to be from a game called Gimmick. Um, I think that just got released not too long ago on Switch in 2023. But before that, I don't think it ever really got an official release. This is a platforming game that came out in the early 90s, I want to say. And I stumbled on the soundtrack while watching a documentary made by Red Bull that was talking about video game music called, I believe it was called Digging in the Carts. And this soundtrack was featured. And when I heard some of the songs, I'm like, this is so adorable that I had to hear the whole thing. So, one song that I want to highlight is the very first track called Good Morning.
All right, here it goes.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that particular track because I love soundtracks that can kind of just put a smile on your face, especially when you're not having a great day. And so hearing songs like this, it just really lifts up the spirits. And even though this is one game I'll admit I've never played personally, but just listening to the soundtrack alone, it has a nice upbeat pop feel to it that I really like. And I just love that old style of music. So I just wanted to highlight that one.
Yeah, it's especially for like 8-bit style music. It it's like one of those songs, and I'm guessing the rest of the soundtrack is able to just do so much with like such limited like tools and resources to like make a soundtrack.
Yeah, that is the most impressive part. It sounds like there's a lot more underneath it than what they had to work with at the time. So there's a lot of depth to it that surprised me. So
Also,
But I
did
find it
all of her other stuffed animals kidnap her to
that's
like murder her? It looked
I know
like.
evil. Like, good lord.
The one looks like
But
he has a knife.
they're just plotting her death.
yeah, look at that. You know
Uh,
what I find really interesting about this is I have not played this game and I don't know the song, but I have played Undertale. And Undertale has tracks that are very similar in kind of feeling or nature as this. And it kind of instantly took me there. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, wow, this is a lot like that. I wonder if this game somehow or in some way inspired Undertale. I would be curious to find that out.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Cause yeah, I've heard the soundtrack to Undertale too. Now that's another game I have yet to play for myself, but I've heard a lot of the music, and I see the connection you're making between the two.
Yeah, there is a track in that game. I believe it's one of the brothers tracks that I don't want to spoil too much, but basically it's one of the tracks for one of the brothers, as far as I know. And it sounds a lot like that. It's been a while since I played the game, so I don't really remember offhand, but it reminds me quite a bit of it. And it's very playful in nature, a lot like this one.
Yeah, so sometimes it's good to play those types of games. I feel like I tend to play too many overly serious narrative driven games, so it's a nice break. So yeah, those were all of my picks. So I appreciate you guys just taking the time to listen, and um, thank you.
Yeah, great list of music. And that
Absolutely.
moves us on to Shadow. So
Before
we.
we start
Yep.
starting with me, I just wanna ask: did anyone of this song inspired you to make pixelated sadness?
Oh, whoa, that is a good question. I can't say that any of them did. When I wrote the lyrics to that song, um, it was mainly borrowed from like memories of when I was younger, in combination of things that I wished would have happened. Like so part of it is real and part of it was fictional. So yeah, as far as like musical influences, it wasn't really directly from any video game soundtrack in particular.
Which that is still a bit. I was just listening to that like a week ago. I thought about that, and it's like I gotta listen to that
Really?
again. Yeah.
I'm still surprised that y'all like it that much.
I think that's a community favorite.
You
I am
know,
so
That
honored.
that's gonna be my
it
command
is.
I
It really
submit.
is.
Is it's gonna be pixelated sadness
Pixelated
and play the
sadness, yeah.
entire song.
You know, so you say this, Miss Moon, and you know what I think you probably should do is occasionally jump into Rob the Idiot's stream every so often because once in a while that song does get mentioned by Rob, and he
What?
loves it a lot.
Oh yeah,
Really?
I
Yep.
brought it up. Well, Rob heard it because he listened to it, and yeah, like the day after he streamed, and I know I was talking to him about it. I was posting in his Discord. It's like if anyone likes like old retro games, listen to the song this person in this other community made.
Oh my goodness. I'm
No,
so honored.
he does really like it a lot. I know that he's mentioned it in chat before that he was really touched by it in the Game Dave chat, but in his own channel when he's streaming, now he streams on Tuesdays, but when he's streaming, he does mention it every so often if it's brought up, and he likes it a lot. So,
Oh, that is awesome. He is so sweet. Oh my goodness. I debated whether I should enter that song because I thought maybe the song is too sad. I was like, is this a good idea? But I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
All right, Chano, would you like to start with your trailers or your music?
Whatever is easier for you.
We can kick it off with your trailers if you want.
Sure. You can play them and I can talk about them after we watch them.
All right. So first one up is Mighty Number 9.
Hey, you, looking at the screen. Let me ask you a question. Do you like awesome things that are awesome? Then you gotta play this game, dude. It's friggin' cool and crazy addictive, like popping bubble wrap addictive. Check this out. See, that's your dash move. There's a short dash, a long dash, jump dash, spiral, slide. There's probably a dash that makes you breakfast. I don't know.
Great idea. Wait, what?
Point is, you're dashing around like a friggin' moon man, and I love it. Oh, and look at this. There's all these combo moves you can do. Then you can do combos on combos to rack up your score. And I know you like that combo on combo action. But I saved the best for last. Absorption boosts. You kill an enemy, and you can absorb their power-ups. Stuff that'll make you faster and stronger, and make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night. So what do you think? You ready to play? I'm ready. No one's talking to you, Vernon! Mighty Number 9.
So this is a game I had no interest in. I didn't want to play this. So why do I bring it up here? I really like how sassy it is, and if you have played Ratchet and Clank, this announcer gave me a Captain Quark vibe to it, and I think that's really funny. And for some reason, crying like an anime fan on prom night have stuck in my mind ever since I saw it for the first time. So that's the whole reason. Because I really had a hard time deciding which trail I like, because I do watch a lot of those game shows like Summer Game Fest, E3, the Game Awards, all that jazz. And all of the trailer is like, have you seen one? You have kind of seen them all. So I had to really go in my empty brain and just figure out which trailer do really stuck with me, and this is one of them. I don't know if any one of you have played the game or any experience with it.
I have not. I do remember like a lot of people are super excited for it. But yeah, it's just one of those games. I played a lot of Mega Man 2 back in the day, but that and what Mega Man 8, the first one that came out on Wii. were like the only ones I ever really played. So it's just like one of those games I just ended up kind of passing up. But I do appreciate a very sassy, humor loaded trailer for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I will say
Yeah.
that I'm not too familiar with it myself. I do remember when this game came out, and I remember the trailers that launched, specifically this trailer. And I'm there with you. I love the sassiness. I think it's great. I have played the Mega Man series, mostly just 2 and 3, and some of the X games as well. But I'm not like a mega fan of them, so I never really got around to playing this as a result. But yeah, I like the sassiness of the trailer for sure.
Yeah, that was a really nice part of the trailer. I personally haven't played this before myself. I didn't know this existed until now. So I'm trying to think back how I could
You
have
can
not known
pre-order
it.
now.
I know, right? I better pre-order. No. But the gameplay, I will say, looked really fun and fast-paced. I like that.
Actually, I followed the game when it was on Kickstarter back in 2013, but I didn't actually go and help back it. I bought it later when it came out, and there's apart from the figure, there was a lot of regret on my end.
Or
Mm.
yeah, because I remember there was some disappointment because it kind of wasn't what people are expecting. Because because it's made by the creator of Mega Man, right?
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people were kind of hoping it was a lot more Mega Man ish than it ended up being. But yeah, if you're ready, Shadow, I can kick off the next trailer, which is No More Heroes 3 from the Game Awards.
Damon, I love you! Best friends forever, Foo. It looks like this is goodbye, Foo.
Damon, I love you. In 20 years, I will return.
Go, Foo! Foo, is that you?
Damon, I love you! Do it! Apparently, superheroes are popular in this country, so we're gonna jump on that.
Right, Mr. Big Shot.
Foo, what are you? I'm a goddamn superhero.
Superhero! You must mean me. And now galactic superhero rankings? What?
Oh, so there is an extended version.
2020 release? Good luck.
Well, first I want to explain a marketing term that called noise. And noise is when you see a trailer like this or an advertisement or anything, and you don't know what it is, what they're advertising. That is what noise is. And I think this is a very good use of noise because when I first watched this live at the Game Awards, I was scratching my head and like, is this a Boy and His Blob reboot? And then it got a bit weird. So, what is this? This art style is very interesting and unique. And when he says "goddamn superhero," the logo appears, and oh, that sounds like a cool game. And then Travis Touchdown just coming in, and it turns out it's No More Heroes 3, which it's been a minute since the last game, at least in the numbered. So this really stuck with me with how the aliens comes all together. I think it's a beautiful mess.
Yeah, I gotta say that I think the first time I've seen that trailer, and yeah, I again really like that art style, and again that humor of the cute little blob coming back, and then he's essentially like an evil villain. Um, is really funny, but yeah, really appreciate when something like flips the script at the very end, and then it comes out that because that whole time you'd be wondering like what game is this, and then the fact that it's a No More Heroes game is really fun. I know Ryan Reynolds was saying for it just reminds me for the latest Deadpool, they wanted it to be advertise it as like a buddy cop movie. I forget what the name was, but the whole movie, all the advertising would be like it's this new like buddy cop movie coming out, and like the first 5 minutes would be that movie, and then it would turn to Deadpool 3, like with Wolverine, and like if they would have actually done that, and this is that just on the very small scale, like that is the type of stuff I do really love because it really has an impact when just that curveball comes out and you're like, what?
And the funny thing is, the last thing you say is like 2020 release. Good luck. It got delayed for a year. So that's a bit funny. I still haven't played the game, but I'm looking forward to the day comes when I play it.
Yeah, I've played the first one, but not any of the others.
I'm in the same boat. I have 2, 3, and Travis Strikes Back, I believe the spin off game was called. But only played the first one.
I haven't played any of these games, but that trailer, it really had me in the beginning. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a very sentimental trailer, and it just like evolved so quick, and I'm like, where is this going? Oh my God, what is happening? I actually really liked it for its absurdity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
that was a good trailer. I'm starting to notice a trend. You like your sassy humor, don't you, Shadow?
Well, I follow Dave for a reason.
That's true.
But yeah, I've always seen people play No More Heroes, but I never played it for myself. And I too love that kind of absurd humor. That is just unapologetic and in your face. So that was a funny trailer.
Glad you all liked it.
All right, and with that, we can go on to the next trailer, which is the Pokemon Game Boy commercial from '98.
Hey, little buddy, want a ride?
Pikachu!
Yeah, whatever. I'll be right back.
Where can you catch all 150 Pokemon? On your Game Boy, that's where. Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them all. Games and systems sold separately.
That's kind of dark.
Well, you gotta catch them all some way, right?
You know, that trailer is a throwback. I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, this is like it's smart and it's witty, but dang, that's dark. I love it
Yeah.
though. Yeah, I remember seeing that when it came out. That was so funny.
Yeah, the worst kept secret is that I'm a big Pokemon fan, at least was when I was a kid, right? And I remember popping in VHS and going to see the episodes, and those commercials were always playing before episode starts, and that's such a nostalgic trip watching that. And just to see Pokemon in real life, it was really cool back then.
Oh my goodness, you brought me back to my childhood for a second there. Looking at it, I didn't realize how dark it was. It kind of threw me off, but oh man, I remember those commercials playing all the time. And I wasn't able to really get a Pokemon game until Yellow. So I never had Red or Blue, but because of its popularity, you would see those commercials a lot.
As a kid, it wasn't as dark because you're like, I get it, bus driver. I'd be doing the same thing.
No, that's exactly it. It's so true.
I'll crush a bus full of Pokemon if it means I get a brand new Game Boy with Pokemon Yellow. Zanya, you're saying in chat that this was a childhood memory for you two watching this trailer back then?
Oh yeah, and I got Red first, and after I got Blue on the original Game Boy. Still have the original games, but they're both kind of messed up because someone used the missing no cheat.
Oh no.
Oh.
Not in a bad way. It's just that, well, I don't know if you know about the missing no cheat, how to get infinite items for that particular item when you put it on the 5th slot, I believe.
I think it's the 6th.
The 6th one, as far as I know. Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, 5th or 6th. And yeah, so I did that for both games. So now when I go check my Hall of Fame, it is 8-bit Nightmare. And sounds I didn't think that the Game Boy could actually make.
Well, I think it was a 8-bit nightmare for those Pokemon in that bus.
They did have to show them still alive in the Game Boy, though. That was like I'm sure that was like, if you're doing this trailer, you gotta show all those Pokemon still alive, moving around on that screen.
Yeah, but things were different back then. I think you could get away with a lot more compared to now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
So yeah, simpler times.
And that was like the start of that. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but Nintendo during the GameCube era, but I think you've seen it kind of start probably with stuff like this, but Nintendo for a short time kind of had that Attitude Era. Like there's that goofy ad, I think for like the Game Boy Advance, where Mario has a tattoo. He's like rolling up his sleeve and he has like a tattoo. And Mario, like on all the GameCube games, go back and look at like Strikers. Strikers is a great example of the Strikers games for GameCube compared to like the new one that came out for Switch. There was a lot more like meanness and attitude with like Mario and a lot of the core Nintendo stuff. And they had Nintendo's like little edgy moment was like not nearly as edgy as some of the other consoles got back then, but it's just funny going back and looking at that era.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was around Game Boy Advance or GameCube era, around that time. Yeah.
Game Boy Advance had a lot of like kind of edgy articles of like cheating on your spouse with like the Game Boy Advance and stuff.
Right.
Whoa, wait, what?
Like
really?
it had some crazy stuff back then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. There's like one or two article, like they're magazine articles they used to put out.
Well, they also had this kind of during the Super Nintendo era a little bit too, where they would say something like, something like your wife isn't as exciting as the Super Nintendo or something like that. I don't know exactly what they were saying, but like they would have these as magazine adverts.
All right. I'll post this in the, or here, let me just, I'm going to share my,
You also have the Yoshi's Island commercial, I believe, or was it the Kirby, where the kid ate himself so he exploded?
So I'm sharing.
Bacon, I think you're right. I think a lot of that had to do with Nintendo going against Sega at the time, and they were kind of experimenting with what they probably should and shouldn't do. I think a lot of it had to do with Sega, actually.
You guys should be able to see that Mario tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, it's just so
Yep,
So funny.
that's right.
Oh my lord.
They made
Or like this one.
Yeah, that's one of them. Yep,
This
that's
was
one
like
of them.
the older one,
You
but
know,
yeah,
I forgot how wild some of these ads were.
like who cares about your
Crazy.
date at prom? You
Yep,
get your
that's
Game
it.
Boy S-
That's one of them too. Yeah, they would have stuff like this. This was normal for them at the time. It's just that weird era of Nintendo where it's like you would never see that today.
I remember that DS slogan was "Touching is good."
I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't tried to like scrub this from history.
You would
You
think
know,
they
and not
would, you
acknowledge
know.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cease and desist themselves from the
Yeah,
past.
right?
I mean, they can try, but let's be honest, the internet never forgets.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's on there
Yeah.
now.
Yep. Internet will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
They're
I like the inclusion of you writing edgy in there, Filbert.
Oh, I seen this recently. The guy from Always Sunny, I did not know did a GameCube ad.
Whoa.
Oh,
Look at
nice.
them.
Look at that.
Dennis, but I forget his actual name. That popped up on Reddit just like yesterday. Seen it.
Wait, is that Wario one? Is that real? What is that?
What?
Hang with the bling bling king. It looks real.
Oh, what have they done to my boy? Oh my
They
goodness.
made him spectacular. That would be Wario if he was a real person. He'd be walking around in just a fur fluffy
See, this is
outfit.
it. This is it. That was the
Oh my
GameCube.
gosh.
That was the GameCube.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and Game Boy Advance was GameCube era. That era.
Yeah,
They,
that era. It's so
but it
weird.
was only magazine ads they used to do stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this.
that's
with.
right.
Yeah. Or like here's another one, Strikers. You're gonna need
Oh,
these,
wow.
and clearly,
Look at that.
You kind of need to have something like extreme like that in a magazine, so you stop
Just to stand
turning
out.
the
Yeah.
page and like, what is this?
Yep.
All right.
Just a different time. Crazy.
Yes.
Let me switch back to the VLC, and we can get to the next trailer, which is Professor Layton and the Unwound Future.
It just doesn't seem to add up, Professor.
I honestly thought you were pulling my leg.
It all started about a week ago.
Something's gone very wrong. A hat?
Professor, the London we know and love has been thrown into absolute chaos.
What is going on here? I had a feeling you were behind this, Dr. Stun Gun. Someone here masterminded a scheme, and that person is there.
So, I didn't find the exact trailer, but I remember very vividly that they aired commercial for this game on the TV, and this was around 2008, 2009, around there. And going 7 years in the future, I still have remembrance of Professor Layton. I never played those games, but I started to collect those games, and it says a lot when a trailer you just watch on the television sticks with you so long, and like I want to collect those games I saw back then. So that's what I'm trying to like. I'm just rambling now, but what I'm trying to say is, with these trailers, I tried to pick those who stuck with me, and this was one of them. Like, I have all the Professor Layton games now because of this commercial I saw back in 2009, 2008, and started collecting in like 2016 or something. So I think it's pretty cool that a trailer can have such an effect on you.
And it's just like a really well done trailer. The music, the sound, you get enough bits of the story, and then again with the video game, especially like a one like that where you're playing a professor, seeing like how some of like the mini games and detective work is probably done. It just felt like really good. Like when I see a trailer, like something that's gonna hook me, and both of showing me the narrative and then what to expect from the gameplay, it just nailed it. And those like animated scenes, which I'm assuming are cut scenes during the game for on the DS, like that looks really cool. And
It's a very heartfelt game in some areas. I don't know if any of you have even touched this franchise.
I've always been aware of the series, but yeah, this is definitely another title I never played before. But both of you kind of touched on like how that trailer in particular can kind of pique your interest with what they show to kind of lure you in, and once you do, you turn out to become, a fan of it and start getting into more of their games. And just it just shows how important it is to have an effective trailer that tells you enough to pique your interest. And I think that one did a really great job in doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it did a really good job of showing off the characters of the game, how the game plays. I know that Rachel is a pretty big fan of Professor Layton games, and even though I haven't really played them myself, they've got a lot of charm. And Zanya was saying in the chat that they have really good music, and they do. The music in these games are great.
And this franchise actually have a movie too, which is pretty good. And they translated like puzzles into a movie, very good. So if you got anything from this, I reckon give that a watch if you don't want to play the games.
all right, and with that, we can move on to Shadow's final trailer, and that is Tales of Symphonia: Dawn of the New World.
Courage. The magic that turns dreams into reality.
You better pray to Martel one last time. Pray to her for a painless death.
Let's go! Thank you! You really are my prince!
Hand over the Centurion's core. If you refuse me, I won't hesitate to take it by force. One thing's certain. I won't let you hurt them. I won't let you hurt my friends!
is much, much cooler than the fantasy I had in my mind.
Get yourself together, Emil. You already know exactly what you need to break out of your shell.
Yes, everyone, let's do this.
Wow, a lot of famous voice actors in that one.
Yes. So, I don't know if you remember, I alluded to a game that got knocked out of my favorite spot because Rebirth took my favorite game of all time spot. This was my favorite game of all time before Rebirth. It was kind of like the right game to the right time because this was around 2009, 2008. I really wanted to watch anime, but our internet, or the lack of internet, I should say, it was not sustainable to do much on internet really. So that was just a dream, and I got hold of this game and like, yeah, I want this. And at first, I didn't like it. I think this was a weird game, and protagonist Emil, he was kind of cowardly and bad, not likable at all. But I stuck with it. I'm gonna say the reason later in this episode, but I really loved it when I pushed through it, and I was scared to play it because every time I played it, everything will turn like to poop. Like, this game isn't that good like this. And this game also, this trailer, I should say, start with my two favorite quote from video games. One is, "You better pray to Martel one last time. Pray to her for a painless death." That is such a good delivery and a quote. And my favorite, "Courage is the magic that turns dreams to reality." I think that's such a beautiful quote and something to live by. So I don't know if any one of you have any knowledge to this. I know I'm like the only one on the internet that likes this game, so
I played not this one. I played one of the Tales games on Switch. I got like halfway through it, and I enjoyed it, but it's one of those I kind of sat down and didn't get back to it. Um, and then recently I started to play a bit of Tales of Arise. But I did like the trailer, especially the start. It's one of those trailers that like pulled me in at the very start because it kind of sets up some stakes where you can tell there's the protagonist and this guy, what you're assuming is the antagonist, and I just love when a trailer puts these big stakes and it just makes me wonder. It's like, all right, what are they talking about? How did we build here? And that's like the type of hook that brings me in. But as far as the game itself, I unfortunately have not played many Tales games, and I haven't played this one, so I can't speak too much more on it.
and to give some context, the protagonist is fighting the previous game protagonist in this trailer. So what's going on here? So I think that's a really good method to get interest.
Yeah, I'm not really too familiar with the Tales games myself. I did try Tales of Symphonia, I think the original one on GameCube at one point. I never quite went back to it. I think I really only played the first 20 minutes or so. But I have heard a lot of good things about the series in general. A lot of the Tales games get a lot of praise from people that I engage with in other Discords. And they seem really interesting. Almost immediately, though, I think what stood out to me in that trailer were the famous voice actors that were in that. I heard Kyle Hebert, Johnny Young Bosch. I mean, it's interesting. So that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, and Johnny Longbarge, which plays Emil, which is the protagonist in this game. He makes such a great work. If you're not interested to see or play this game, at least search up some scenes from it and see his delivery.
Yeah, this is definitely one game that I really should check out because let's see, that came out in 2009. For a couple of years, I want to say in the late 2000s, early 2010s, I wasn't really playing as much during that period. So I feel like I missed out on some games and especially RPGs in particular. And so I feel like this one went under the radar for me, but I would love to go back and give it a shot.
And not to get sidetracked, but speaking of famous voice actors, I can't believe I did not realize that Lance Bass voiced Sephiroth in the Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
That had
I
me
forget
cracking.
not everybody knows about that.
It's so interesting too, because it's like that was in the back of my mind when we were playing that, and I thought to myself, I wonder if anybody actually knows this, because he doesn't make like a big appearance in the game. He's just an optional
Yeah.
fight, right?
It's just when that chatter from that raid was just like, imagine getting your ass kicked by Lance Bass, and it's like, wait, what?
Yep.
But sorry,
That was so good.
You saying that just made me think of that.
Yeah, it's particularly funny because that has never really happened since. I think he only voiced Sephiroth the one time,
Yep.
and that's it.
Yep, I was
And
looking at it.
and it's so fascinating because again, it's just the fight, and he doesn't really say much other than what he says during the fight. And I'm just like, wow, Lance Bass, that's a choice.
And even down to this day, I still wonder why did they pick him of all people to do the voice? I mean, they couldn't have gotten the voice actor from like from Advent Children to play the part.
Right.
Maybe he wasn't available, but that's
All
still a
I can
mystery.
think of is he must have been a Final Fantasy VII fan.
That's
And
exactly what I'm thinking.
2002
Yep.
was still like just at the tail end of like the peak of NSYNC. So he must have just like pulled it. He must have told it. He must have had an agent or something where that came up and he's like, "Get me that role," and he's like, "It's 6 lines." He's like, "Get me that role."
So worth it. No.
How amazing would it be if like news came out that he was like a Final Fantasy VII like mega fan or something, and we just never knew it.
That would be awesome, to be frank.
And it's like, hey, guys, remember this guy from NSYNC who you haven't heard of in 20 years? Well, he's back, and he loves Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's like finding out Robert Patterson played Final
Yep.
Fantasy VII. I'm like,
Yep.
what? Whoa.
I know, I was so shocked by that. Like when I posted that video, I'm like, I don't really follow Robert Pattinson, and I started to pick up on his work when he started doing things like Batman and such. So I'm like, you know what? I can recognize he's a pretty good actor, and you know what? Good for him. Fair play. But then when I saw that video, I'm like, oh wow, he actually has like an authentic interest in this game. It's not just like a passive like, oh, I played this once for a few hours. No, he straight up like loves the game. And I'm like, you know what? I respect you even more for that now. That is really cool.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him like in any other video game credits. So but yeah. Just speaking of famous voice actors, the one-time wonder of Lance Bass in his video game career.
First and last. Probably. I don't know. Maybe he's done more. I actually don't know, but I think it'd be funny if that was really his only one.
And he did a good job. The grunts were believable. He did.
From
No,
what
I
I can
actually thought they were
tell,
fine.
that is the only video game he's done. He's done a lot of like kid shows and stuff.
Oh.
Um, or just a lot of like shows where he he just plays himself, Lance Bass. Like half of his credits are just himself.
Now
like,
you know what they're gonna do in Final Fantasy VII. Like the next one that they introduce is they're gonna have Lance Bass as a Shinra character, and he's gonna be the replacement for our friend or your favorite.
Bring him back for he needs to be Seth Ross' voice in part 3. That's our petition.
Oh, they're gonna model somebody like they're gonna model like the next Shinra soldier after him and have his face as that character.
Bacon, that would be perfect if he stabbed Harrison just started singing bye bye bye.
Oh wow.
The disrespect.
I know.
All right. Well, we can move on to Shadow's music. Do you want me to play one of these? We listen to it and you talk about it, Shadow?
Yeah, talking about it after we listen to it.
All right. First, we have Bravely Default. Loves Vagrant. All right.
So in Bravely Default, you have a 4-man party, and all have like a special mode they go in battle when you fill up a bar. We can take it as a limit bar, if you will. And everyone has this song in some versions. This is Ringabel's version, and he's like this. He's kind of Johnny Bravo, but with class. He's a romantic. He always hitting up the ladies. All like, all like, all like that. And I think that music really get his personality out there. Bravely Default is also a very underrated game and soundtrack. More people should play it. So here's the question: have any of you played it?
I have not.
It's on my list. Well, it's been on my radar, I should say, because I've heard nothing but good things about it too.
I haven't played it, but I have also heard good things. Really quick too, was that a battle theme?
Yes.
Ah, okay, yeah, it sounded like that. That was really good. Actually really like that.
Yeah, it's like what I said. Like this is like their limit break music. I don't remember what they called that special mode in that combat at top of my head, but I love this song so much. It's so classy and so upbeat.
I love the accordion. It was going hard through through that
It
whole
was.
track.
Yeah.
If no one else have any more to add, we can take the
We
next
can, yeah.
one.
Now, Shadow does have quite a few, so we can make sure we can get through them all, though. Next one is Dance of a Thousand Suns.
So this was from Sea of Stars. This song is also known as Gal's theme. He's like, if you see on the screen, you have two warriors, Saltis warriors, Cell and Valkyrie, I believe. And Gal is them's happy-go-lucky friend who's very positive to almost too much, but he's a great character for the most part. I really had such high hopes and hype for this. This game kind of disappointed me. I think that's in two ways. One reason is this was one of the first games I played after Rebirth, which is a bad mistake on my part. And the other is I think I was too hyped for this. Everyone was like, "This is gonna be a new Chrono Trigger. We all need to play this now." And it's not the new Chrono Trigger. It's a good game, but I thought this were gonna be a great game, and it was not for me. Unfortunate. Is this a game you have any knowledge about?
I just know a little bit about it coming out. I've never played it, but yeah, I did enjoy that kind of theme song. Song it was definitely catchy and poppy.
Yeah, they have a handful of good tracks in that game.
I actually did quite like that track a fair bit. I can hear the Chrono Trigger and the Chrono Cross influence. I will say that around the time that this game was coming out, I was following a lot of online discourse for it because, like Shadow said, there was a lot of hype for the game. People were kind of touting it as the next Chrono Trigger, or the spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger. And I think the people that were making the game were kind of pushing that sort of message that they weren't necessarily saying that, but they were not saying, "Hey guys, like, we're not trying to make that type of game." They basically, the discourse just kind of exploded, but they didn't really say, "Hey, that's not what this game is." It kind of just sort of naturally happened because it looked a lot like that. I think it even played a lot like Chrono Trigger. But I have heard that a lot of people were quite disappointed with this game once it came out, and I think a lot of that had to do with the combat system, as far as I know. Namely, that the combat system is very limited. In comparison to Chrono Trigger, there's not really a lot that you can do with it, and the game doesn't really give you enough to kind of keep you interested as you're going. That's what I've come to understand about it. I haven't played it, but I do think that that is a really good song. I like that song.
And
I think
oh no, you go ahead, Shadow.
you pretty much nails it with your description there of Pixel.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's something that I kept interest in for a while. I mean, a lot of JRPGs that come out that sort of emanate that Super Nintendo or even PlayStation 1 feel immediately have my interest because that's what I grew up with. So if they are exhibiting that kind of look, I'm going to jump in on it and at least follow the discourse pretty closely. And just my exposure to the game and seeing what people have to say about it, a lot of people said that same thing, that they were really looking forward to it. They did enjoy it, but it wasn't quite what they thought. They still had fun, but they would probably give it somewhere around maybe like a 7 or maybe 8 out of 10, something like that. I don't think it was anybody's fault either. I think that there was just so much hype for the game because, again, it was this second coming of Chrono Trigger. But that's a lot to live up to. That's a lot to live up to. I mean, that's a big deal. So, can you hit those marks? We'll see. But I don't know.
But I
And
believe
that's
Msmoon had something.
I just wanted to comment that that's what makes it so strange for me because um I haven't played it before, but I was aware of the discourse of people saying, this was the next Chrono Trigger and all that. But even then, as I was hearing that, I didn't feel compelled to play the game for myself when it launched. I don't know why. It's really strange because usually when that happens, I generally get curious and try the game out for myself to see, if it lives up to those expectations. But for some reason, with Sea of Stars, as much as I love Chrono Trigger more than anything, it didn't compel me to want to try it for some reason.
But one thing they did amazingly is the pixel art. That is one of the most beautiful games I've seen.
I totally agree. I think it looks beautiful. A very, very good looking game.
Absolutely. Well, shall we get the show on the roll?
Yep. So next up is Mega Man Star Force Shooting Star.
So I alluded to when I talked about the Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World trailer that there was a reason why I stuck with this game. And this is this game actually, because when I bought it and started playing it, I was thinking like, what is this poop stain? This blows. And I was just thinking like, I don't have anything else to play. I guess I just have to suck it up and play it. And this game is amazing. And that really learned me to stick with games, like see them through the journey and see the credits. So thanks to this game, I don't quit games when I start playing them. It's very rarely I do. So I think that's a very important game for me in that aspect. And the music, this is the title screen music, and it's such a bop you're meeting with. It's a great game. And I don't think any one of you have played it. I think this is a low-key Mega Man that no one has really heard about. Am I correct?
I've not played the game or heard the soundtrack, but definitely enjoyed the soundtrack. But yeah, I've not played it.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I haven't played it. I did mention earlier I haven't really played a lot of Mega Man games, so this one kind of passed me by. But I did like the song. It was very energetic.
This is one of the RPG Mega Mans.
I didn't even know they made RPG Mega Mans. That's cool.
I believe it's the same in combat as Battle Network. I haven't played the Battle Network one, so I can't really confirm it, but by the look of it, it does seems like the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like Pixel. I played a ton up to, and then like I think 8 on Wii, but I know there's like that whole like Battle Network Legends X, like there's like all these like different branches of Mega Man, but I've never really played any of them.
Yeah, the same goes for me as well. I've always heard the music, but I've never played any of them before.
You know, I will say this though, and I do have to say this about the Mega Man series. My best friend loves Mega Man. I mean, he's played almost all of them as far as the original series goes and X. And I've watched him play them. I think that those games they're so good at having a consistently good soundtrack. And it sounds like this game kind of follows that same trend where they're just always fun or exciting.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I played these games, but I do want to return to them someday.
I haven't played this game, but I have heard the soundtrack with a radio station that I usually stream on YouTube.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I did put this as a song request on Garten. How do you say his name?
Narthex.
Yeah, him. And he did a really good drum cover of it.
Yeah, he always does a good job.
He does. Well, without further ado, play my song, DJ.
All right, next one up is Paper Mario 64, the main title.
Yeah, so this was my first JRPG that wasn't Pokemon, and I absolutely loved it. Told a bit about the story in episode 2, but this is the main menu theme, and I think that's such a good song. Like, you hear it, and like, this is gonna be a fun adventure with much laugh and smiles. I really adore this game. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like how like you can hear like old OG Mario music like in the background of that theme. I've never played the Paper Mario in 64, but Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite GameCube games, and I enjoyed the first one on Wii too. I forget what that one was called, but
Super Paper Mario.
yeah. But yeah, and this is still like the era when Nintendo was I felt like defining Mario and like the music and everything because I feel like that end of 64 into GameCube really made Mario what it is today. But because a lot of modern Mario music isn't like this. This still like makes me think a lot of like Super Nintendo, like Mario World or Mario Brothers 3. Um, but a very cool track.
Absolutely. Anyone else have played this?
I have not. In fact, and this is gonna make me sound really stupid, but I actually thought the first Paper Mario game was Thousand Year Door. I didn't know this was the first. So for me, this is a nice surprise, but like Filbert said, it's got elements of those older Mario games in it, and I really like that.
Yeah, they don't make it like this anymore. Sorry, Msmoon, you were saying?
Oh, I was just saying I too haven't played this or the Thousand Year Door, which surprises me because I played a lot more Mario games back then than I do now, unless it's Mario Party or something like that. So, but that is one thing I've always loved about the music is how consistent it is without being like treading old ground. Their music has always been very creative and fun to listen to. So, um, if I listened to all of Paper Mario soundtrack, I would not be surprised that I would like it.
Well, we can take the next one then.
So the next one is Pokemon Vermilion City.
So this city theme have a lot of different versions because the Kanto region have appeared in so many generations, but this generation 4, is like my favorite version of Vermilion City, and it's my favorite city in all the Pokeverse. Just something relaxing with it. The song, the orange color they used for Game Boy Color and Nintendo 64, and it's ocean city, like the sea is next to it, and it feels so alive with SSN. I just get in a good mood when I hear this song. And I know Pixel loves this game too.
Yeah, Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver are what I would say are like probably some of the best remakes of the original Generation 2 games. And that I really think that that applies to any game ever made. I just think that they're so good because they touch up on so many aspects of Generation 2 Gold and Silver that made them so good and then amplified everything up to 11. They refined the graphics, they refined the music, they smoothed out a lot of the bugs that were present in the original games. They made the pixel art very beautiful. The games in general were just a blast to play. They added a ton of Pokemon in later generations into these games and allowed you to catch them. They added new features to the games that were not present in the original ones, but really added a sort of convenience factor that was sort of, I would say, sorely needed, that the original two were missing. And Heart Gold and Soul Silver are also part of the Generation 4. And those games that came out on the DS are so good. They are a really solid batch of Pokemon games, like easily my favorite generation by far. And and the music in this game, I mean, it's basically just gold and silver again, but they're touched up, they're redone completely, and they're great. And this one is a really nice version of that song. It's just good. It's really good.
Yeah, this is peak Pokemon for me. You can't top this game.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
I don't think that's possible with the current state of Game Freak, but that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah,
So
that's another discussion to have. I think that Pokemon for me, because I've played a lot of Pokemon as well. I've played the first and second generation. I did skip out on the third, but I went back a little bit later and played a large portion of the fourth and fifth and seventh generation. I did skip out on the sixth, but playing this game at the time when it came out, I mean, it reinvigorated my interest in Pokemon. I was kind of on a downward slope when I was playing the series, and Heart Gold and Soul Silver completely reinvigorated it for me when it came out. So it was a big deal, and for me, it's definitely peak Pokemon.
yeah, so for me, I did not play much Pokemon at all. The only I've really played some of them on the Switch, but uh, it is a nice, relaxing song. Except you know how I feel about like bells like that, Shadow. It, uh, that's the only part I don't like. Yeah, just like
Uh-oh. New command idea.
no,
Oh, there we
banned.
go.
We're
That's a
disbanding
good call.
the mod community.
Oh.
We had a good
Exclamation mark bell.
Yeah, we can continue if no one wants to add something.
Next, we have Tales of Symphonia opening.
夜空をかける流れ星を今見つけられたら何を祈るだろう旅立つ君と交わした約束心の中にいつもある 「
So this song is called Starry Haven, and it's the Japanese opening for Tales of Symphonia. Luckily, in the PlayStation 3 remaster, Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which have both of those games, this is also the opening for international release. They also have the standard Western release from the GameCube version, but I much prefer this one. This I have blasted in my car multiple times, and it's absolute a banger of an opening. You know you're about to have a good time when you open the game and hear that.
That was a pretty catchy opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and again, it's one of those games. It's on my because that is also the same one from on the GameCube, right, Shadow?
This is the GameCube one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a game I need to play soon. Um, one of the few GameCube games I own that I've never played.
Yeah, I often say this is my Final Fantasy VII, the Symphonia games. This is where my true love began for JRPGs. But we can move on.
Next, we have from Alive Alive or Live Alive, however you prefer to pronounce it. Totally not Mega Omania. All right. Since it's extended, I'm assuming it just kind of keeps repeating. Uh, yeah, but yeah, not. I've only know about this game just because of the re-release and watching Dave play a bit. But the first thing I gotta say, it's like not the type of music I expect from this game, especially when it's showing like the feudal Japan level.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm always getting pumped when I hear it, and when you hear it in context, ooh, that's good. That's real good.
Is it like a battle theme?
This is a boss
Fight.
boss fight theme, yeah. And you hear it in multiple scenarios throughout the game. Is all I'm gonna say. And you said the name was Megalomania, and that's correct. But doesn't that sound a bit familiar? I think, like Megalovania. This is actually the song that inspired Toby Fox to make Megalovania.
Yeah, I was gonna say the name is, I think, a direct reference to that because, yeah, I mean, I think it's called not Megalomania. Is that right?
That sounds.
Yeah, that's the name of the track. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and the one that's in Undertale is called Megalomania.
Yeah, Vania, not Mania.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Megalovania. That's right.
Yes. And I prefer this remastered or the remake one of the original game. I don't know if anyone have played this game. I really love this game. This game in my top 30 game after I've beaten it.
I haven't played it yet, but I'm very familiar with that song. I love that track. I often hear like different remixes for it. Like I've heard like a bossa nova version. One of my favorites was actually done in the style of metal. It really lends itself well to that style. So this is one of my favorite songs.
You gotta send me that after show.
Oh yeah, sure.
I am not familiar with the track, but I am familiar with the game. I did play, I think, about maybe 10 hours of it. I need to get back to it and finish it, but I did like what I played.
Yeah, I really like the combat in that game too. So, absolute recommend this game for every JRPG fan to play. And it's a pretty short one for a JRPG standard, so you can get through it in a weekend or so.
I purchased the game, but I have yet to play it. It's on my backlog.
Your the dreaded backlog shelf.
Oh yeah.
Yep, you can start second to last one.
All right. We have Undertale, Hopes and Dreams.
love this so much. I have a feeling when I hear this track that you're in a dark place, but everything is gonna be just okay. There is hope. It's like the message I get from this song, and I believe it's been ages since I played Undertale, but I believe when this is played, is like everything seems to be lost. Like it seems to be this is it, but this comes true, and you really feel like there's is hope and dreams there out. It's and Toby Fox just a wonderful musician.
Yeah, just I still need to beat Undertale. I probably got halfway through it years and years ago. We're talking like a decade ago now, probably 2015, 16. And the music for that game is top notch. That I heard while playing it, and it's all listen to anything like video game adjacent. Every once in a while, an Undertale track comes on, and they're just always bangers.
Yeah, you could take any song from Undertale on this show, like. But this one is my favorite. It's such a positive vibe I'm getting from this. It's such a great song. Makes me smile. Makes me
Yeah,
feel something for once.
yeah. This track for me is easily my favorite of the soundtrack. There was a time where I was looping this song constantly, and a lot of it has to do with the context surrounding the song. Without really spoiling too much, essentially you're in a fight and things are insanely hectic for you, like very, very hectic. Like Shadow was saying, you kind of have this sense of dread that all hope is lost, basically. And the person you're fighting, you have an emotional attachment to. And again, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but the context behind the song is that it's a very hectic and very crazy, but also very emotional song, and it fits with what's going on screen. And easily, in my opinion, the best one of the entire soundtrack. I mean, I love that song.
I just wanted to quickly add, I love how Toby Fox is able to draw from these different influences from other RPGs because you can hear it in the way that he writes the music, but he does it in such a way that is it's almost like a love letter to RPGs in and of itself. And even though I haven't played the game yet for myself, I do want to because I'm very curious about it. But I've always heard the music, and it's always sparked these like nostalgic feelings and thoughts of RPGs that I enjoy. So I think he did a real good job in capturing that.
This was almost a ringtone for me. Almost. And I don't do ringtones.
Tanya, have you played Undertale?
No, I'm probably one of the very few people in the world that hasn't played Undertale.
Well, some of you are grouped there, so it's a very short game, so give
Yeah,
it a week.
I think how much time do I put into it? I just need to play it.
I think it's like 5 or 6 hours to beat.
Yeah, it looks like I put 3 hours into it on Steam. So
That
I
sounds
gotta,
about right.
but I didn't beat it, so I gotta go back and actually knock it out.
I don't feel so bad anymore. Vinny and myself haven't played it.
All right.
Well, if you do,
Oh,
play through it twice for the full context.
Got it.
so last up we have Yeez, Foliage, Ocean, and oh,
I misspoke earlier. This is the second to last one.
oh, do you have another?
Yeah, I've sent
Alright.
you
Alright.
when I spammed you with all of these.
I'll have to go back and look because this is the last one I have. But oh.
I think this is such a fun tone theme. Like, this is from E's Memories of Celzetta, and the whole point of that game is like you're gonna map this forest, so you have to go back to the town multiple times, and you're getting hit with that happy tune. It's always a blast returning after you've been to the forest, and it's a song I play pretty often for myself.
Yeah, Salsetta is an interesting one. I do like that you chose that song because it is very exciting and it's very happy and energetic. I mean, I love the Ease games; they're great, and this is a really good track for that.
Absolutely. This is the only East games I've played so far, but man, did I fall in love with this. Such a great game.
Yeah, I've never played any of these games. I know of them, but yeah, I like just a good like track for if you're getting ready to adventure or you arrive to like a new town, like you're at the port or something. Definitely get taking that vibe to like go explore the world.
Yeah, it could get you that vibe, yeah, absolutely.
Also, Shadow, I think subconsciously I did not add. I just scrolled through and found the song, and I was like, "Oh, I see what you're trying to add," and it was not intentional. I think subconsciously I seen that, and it's like my brain was like, "Nope."
I even
But
saved you the Chocobo GP and you're treating me like this?
but
What?
I have his final song ready.
Yeah, if anyone want to speak on this game, I think this is a pretty niche game, so I don't think many have played this.
Yeah, I like Bacon says the only reason I even know about Ease is because of Johnny Millennium from Happy Console Gamer talks about them and reviews them. If it was not for him, I would probably not know these existed. But I know
Yeah,
he also
same
points
here.
out the music a lot in them.
Yeah, same here. I'm really starting to question, do I play games?
Oh no.
Because there's just so many titles tonight that I know about, but I've never touched once, and I just feel like I'm limited in a way.
Have this episode become shaming each other indirectly?
Yeah, exactly.
Burden's in chat. Burden will recognize all of my soundtracks. He's a map clicky game player like myself.
You know, Shadow, I will say, I have played through this game. In fact, I've played all the Ys games, and I own all the soundtracks for them. I love the Ys games. I love their combat. It's so simplistic, but it's also addictive. And I love how they're always fun. I think that's the key thing with Ys games for me. They're just always a blast to play. I want to add a side note. If you haven't played Ys 8, oh boy, that is a really good Ys game. And when it comes to soundtracks, there's going to be one track in there that I bet is going to stand out for you as very, very fun and exciting.
I'm excited to play it. I have it on my shelf actually, but you know that backlog, it's not getting any thinner. It's just growing.
You know, it's funny you guys mentioned Johnny Millennium. I don't particularly watch him. I know of him, but if he owns all the soundtracks, I mean, he's for good reason. I mean, they have really good music.
Yeah. They do.
All right, and I'll share my screen again because I closed VLC player, so it went away. But you'll see Channel's last pick to torture me.
Oh yeah.
All right.
He's gonna make us cry by the end of the night.
Oh yes. More ways than just one.
This. All right, we have no promises to keep from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Walking city streets with worn cobblestones, listening to people rushing past to rhythms all their own. Life passing me by, not thinking how the years have flown until I met you. I won't say that it was fate. I won't say that it was destiny. But if not, what could it be that drew you towards me? Could it be chance? Till the day that we meet
Have you seen the extended part of the song Shadow?
What do you mean by that?
I'll show you right here. Right.
I'm gonna be cross with you, aren't I?
right here. So we gotta.
That's it. I'm leaving.
I'm out. We're gone.
Heck you, Filbert. Heck you. Well, I was saving the
Oh,
best for last.
people on
As
stream. I don't know if people on stream could see it, but
They didn't.
you can probably guess what scene I just played.
And this is my favorite song of all time right now. It have really stuck with me and it really touched me, like I have said in our Rebirth episode. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk more about it, because I got the great opportunity to see the man, the legend himself, Nobuo Uematsu, live. And that was the closing song they had. Lauren Allred wasn't a part of the concert for this was Nobuo Uematsu with his band Kontiki, which is a great band and I really recommend you checking them out. But the lead singer from Kontiki, Xiao, I believe her name was, she did this song very, very good justice. I was a bit worried, like she's not a native English speaker, right? And she nailed it. Like, whew. It was a standing applause after that. It was such a great concert. And just hearing the lyrics like walking city streets with worn cobblestones, my mind just getting in cinema mode and just seeing Eri for the first time in a remake. Absolutely lovely. Isn't that right, Filbert?
They did it right the first time.
Damn.
Nice.
Ouch. You really hate her, don't you?
Again, I went from I liked her more than Tifa in the original game. I just found her writing. I just have never had turned on character more by kind of how the dialogue and stuff changed.
Ah. I guess yeah, I guess that's understandable. You know, it's weird. I didn't like that song at first when they announced the theme song. It, I think Bacon said it in chat. It sounds like a Disney princess song. And so when I first heard it, it just didn't sound like it fit. And certainly not the way that Hollow did from Remake. But after beating Rebirth, um, it, you know, you get to understand Aerith's character a lot, you know, a lot better this time around and get inside her head. So hearing those lyrics and seeing her singing it out, it made me appreciate the song a lot more because it expressed a lot of what she was feeling inside.
I think I kind of feel the same way when I heard it the first time. It didn't really feel like a Final Fantasy song to me. I did like it. I just was like, this is it's different, and it's especially different for Eris's character. And I think Filbert did touch on an interesting point. Eris in the original game was a very, I don't want to say pushy character, but she challenged Cloud a lot, and she did that to make him a better person. And it does kind of feel like in Rebirth, she sort of took a little bit of a back seat. Not saying that her character wasn't great, she still was, but she doesn't really have that same spunk that she had in the original game. And I wish we saw more of that.
And I can appreciate the song. I think it is like a good song. But it is like one of those things for me. It's so tied to that game, and she's one of the biggest issues I kind of have with the game. And even like the lyrics, like talking about like when I see you again and stuff, like to me, I can't help but read into the meaning of what that implies in likely like the next title. Um, so it's like one of those things where I do like appreciate the song and like it. It's not necessarily my favorite. And a little bit of that's just preference. A little bit of that is just separate, like not being able to fully separate like the feelings on the game and the character from the song, which is very character focused. It's not just like it's just a song or a theme. It's very tied to that character.
That's very true, and that's one of the reasons why I love this song so much, because that's so much air in that song. But if you don't like the character, then or even like or played any of these games, then this is just a regular song. But sitting with that context and the love for a character, I believe that really makes this song works for me, though.
And yeah, very much the same with me. I think it works. At first, I was a little bit hesitant about it, but I went back and I'm like, you know what? This is just a good song. Like, aside from just the context, I think it's just a really good song.
And what about you, Zanya? Have you played Rebirth at all, or any of the Final Fantasy VII at all?
Actually, my very first Final Fantasy game was Crisis Core on the
All right.
PSP.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
So from that, I kind of fell in love with Zack, Shadow Nose, because I have almost every single Zack figure that came out. And so from there, now I have to kind of work backwards. Like I know of Final Fantasy VII. I have I had the original game, but I have yet to play it.
All right.
And I have to get Rebirth, but actually I have it on Switch. But I think I might go and get it on Steam.
So that is interesting. Playing Crisis Core before the OG. It'll kind of be interesting to hear your experience playing the original game or remake and Rebirth after playing Crisis Core first. Have you played the remake of Crisis Core?
I have it. I haven't played that one. I
Alright.
just the original one from the PSP.
Yep.
One day I'll get to it.
Yep. That epic backlog we all have.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the true theme of the episode, is like our backlogs, like we haven't played anything.
Well,
I love all these different perspectives on Aerith's character. It's just interesting because I'm actually quite the opposite. I actually learned to appreciate her more in the remake trilogy than the OG. And I feel like this song, because it's so closely connected to her, I think it helped me appreciate where she's coming from a lot more. So I just think it's interesting how I may feel that way and you feel a different way versus like
Yeah.
Pixel or Shadow. I think that's really cool.
Well, I think it does kind of point out, in my opinion, that I won't go as far as say she's a different character, but I think like how you're kind of the opposite of me. You weren't like a big fan of her in OG, but like her more in Rebirth, and vice versa for me. I do think it kind of points out like she is quite differently written, and it's not just because, in my opinion, because there's just more dialogue and ability to get to know her. I do just think she comes off as like a different tone, and it kind of always liked. I felt like she lost a lot of that like kind of street smarts wise girl who knows how to like not manipulate but how to like play the right type of games to just survive in that type of world. And then
Oh,
I felt like a lot of that was dropped, and she really was like Pixel saying, kind of took a step to the side in some aspects, and then other times I think was a little bit like too on the nose in certain scenes.
Well, so this is where I'm a little bit torn on it because I really like her character in the original, but I also like her character quite a bit in this one, with just a few minor complaints. The one being that, again, she kind of lost that sort of aspect of challenging Cloud a lot. But here's the thing. In Rebirth, she still kind of has like it under the context of how she grew up and what she was dealing with. When especially if you play the original game, it kind of makes sense she is the way why she is the way that she is because when she is little, she's always running from Shinra. She's always trying to kind of escape their grasp. So she learns to have those street smarts as she grows up. But because she's also trying to be concealed through Elmira, her adoptive mother, she doesn't really get a chance to really see the outside world that much. So it kind of makes sense to me why she has this sort of like zest or like wonder for life because now she's traveling the world and she's very enamored with it. But the one thing that's lost, of course, is that spunk that she used to have in
Yeah.
the original. And that's where I think it's a little bit like, okay, I still like her character. I just wish that she retained that streetwise attitude because that's what I really liked about her in the original game. And it does again, if she still has that, it's just it's drastically reduced in
Eh,
Rebirth.
And I think to be fair to her character, I think part of it is with Cloud. I think in a lot of ways, eh, with the remakes, you just have a lot more dialogue and getting to know the characters because it's just such a bigger game. And Cloud in the original games, that he has a lot of tropes. You know, whether it's like the amnesia at the start of the game, to kind of that like protagonist who's just like kind of cool and tough, doesn't like to say much, and I think that approach worked very well in the original. But I think the thing in like remake, and especially I think Rebirth kind of highlighted it even more, is he just starts to at some point just come off as a straight up asshole. Like if you're gonna keep kind of acting like this, it's just like people are gonna really get annoyed with you, and they do at moments in the game. But then the fact that Tifa and Aerith still kind of, there's still like that love triangle thing kind of going on when you have like so much time now around Cloud, where it just kind of starts to like erode and irritate. I think that love triangle, because at some point, like if I was in their shoes, I'd be like, dude, you need to just like we're done chasing you or whatever. Like how many times are you gonna just kind of be like whatever, or I'm too cool for you? And I think that worked a lot more in the OG just because there weren't at nearly as many moments of that, and it was quite a bit quicker pace through that first disc, where that it just worked, and I think it lost that with all the extended dialogue and scenes.
Yeah, and I do think that remake showed again a spunkier side of Eris than what we got in Rebirth. I think in Rebirth there was again it was drastically cut back, but we did see a fair bit of it in remake, which I really liked. So
Yeah.
again, that's just it's like a minor complaint, but it is a complaint that I have.
Look, Shadow's just trying to trick us into starting a rebirth discussion.
Right, that's his
Right?
plan all along.
Yeah.
Yep.
Evil laughter.
But yeah,
That's why you save it for last, man.
great songs. I like the part with the sword guy at the end of that final one. Zanya, did you have a couple songs or trailers you wanted to share?
I have a few songs.
All right, yeah. If you want to just DM them to me, we can play and listen to them.
Okay. I'll send you the first one. It's kind of short, but it's a very catchy tune.
All right. All right, and I will reshare my. All right. That was awesome. I love that.
That was cute. I like
That
that.
was adorable.
That was one of the first few games you got when you got a play date. So it was another game or this song or this game, and that was the main theme, and everyone was whistling to it. You couldn't go anywhere in the Playdate community without someone humming this tune.
Yeah, I loved how like it had like actual bird whistles like incorporated into it.
And Sanya have sent me this before, but when I first heard this song, I was like, "The Playdate can do this? What?" I was just mind blown because this is like top tier music.
There's a lot of good music on the Playdate, believe it or not.
Well, I believe after the things you have shown me, I'm
Yeah, I gotta definitely pick one up after hearing some of the like seeing some of the games and stuff. I know I was looking at getting one here soon because it's like one of those
Um,
systems where I kind of heard about it, didn't hear much, but especially kind of talking to you more and more, I'm like, I really need to check out a Playdate.
Well, before you go and drop down that money, what you could do is download the simulator,
Oh,
and I
that
could send you some games. So you can play on your computer, see if you like it, and then decide if you want to spend $200 on the console.
but yeah, I'll have to try that out. But uh, I can move on to your next song unless there's anything else you want to say about this one.
Nope, go right ahead.
Crack the stars to crack the joke. It's a beautiful joke. It's the longest joke in the world. Crank up the game. It's the crankiest game with the bounciest butt in the world. It's Bouncy Butt, cracking the stars, cracking the joke. It's the longest joke in the world. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your wait? Of course it is, and only 99 cents on Playdate.
That's why I expected a song I expect Shadow to submit.
Yeah.
It's very appropriate. We're all about butts here.
Cracking a joke. Oof, that's a good one.
So the point of this entire game is actually you have to use the crank to keep Bouncy Butt, the little black figure, bouncing on the crank while the joke is being told. If you mess up and he falls off the crank, the joke starts over. That's the entire point of the game.
That is very cool. And the next one we have from Zanya. That I think that's my favorite one of those so far. That was so good. Just that perfect type of chill, laid back music.
I got very chilled now. And it's not because it's soon 6 a.m., but it's because of this music. Man, it was good.
Yeah, that was really good. I like that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
entire album's like that, just because you're just playing a chill game of golf.
that's awesome. That sounds like something you could listen to in the background while you're working or whatever you may be doing.
I could
Actually, you
sleep to
could. The
this.
soundtrack. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying I could sleep to this music.
You could do that too, but yeah, he has the album on Spotify, Bandcamp, everywhere.
But yeah, those are awesome. So I guess so. Is the Playdate capable of like playing at that quality of audio too?
It is actually because Teenage Engineering worked on the sound.
So that's super impressive because yeah, I know the Playdate obviously kind of looks like that kind of retro Game Boy type, um, like the monochrome. But knowing that, I was assuming it wouldn't have audio like that. So that is actually really cool to know.
Yeah, it's been amazing the type of music that comes out from the Playdate.
But yeah, thank you for sharing those, Zanya. Definitely cool, and definitely I think spurring at least like my interest in getting look into kind of the play date and some like those games because like many of the people here, um, there's a lot of games people are sharing soundtracks of that I am not familiar with, but music kind of piques my interest in checking them out or pulling them off my backlog shelf, but I really kind of think it's awesome to learn about another console that I'm aware of but don't know much about. And knowing that
Yeah,
it has good music like that is amazing.
yeah, great music. Oh, sorry, Shadow.
No, you go ahead. I can go after.
It's yeah, there's tons of great music and there's over 1,000 games for the Playdate.
I want to suggest, can't you send Filbert a trailer of Shell Slinger?
Okay, I could do that. I'm trying to think of which one though, the first one or the second one. Probably the first
Sorry
one.
for putting you on the spot, but you really need to get out there. You do so amazing work, so I'm pushing you a little.
Let me just go and pull it up here.
Yeah, let me get display capture going. And then get
How long have you been working on Shell Slinger now?
Since last year, I'll send in. You know what? Let me get the latest one.
I just put in display on the top. There we go. So is this a game you've been working on?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Still working on it.
So let's check this out. I will share my screen again so you guys can all see. I also have it up on the stream as well, so they'll be able to watch along too. Oh, we gotta full screen this. Very cool. So I'm assuming the fuller release did not hit December. Still being worked on.
I'm still working on
Yep.
it because the other person I'm working with, Pizza Fuel, he got sick.
Oh, yep.
So, we're still trying to work together. I'm finishing up the art. And yeah, I have a bunch of merch that's going to be coming out for the game.
That is cool. Yeah, when it does come out, so is there a beta yet?
There is a beta,
Right.
but it's pretty basic right
Oh,
now. It's
yeah.
just like the first part of the game, but it gets more intense later on. Once the full game comes out, anyways.
Well, once it does, you have to let us definitely know because we got to shout this out have Dave shout it out to during one of his streams because yeah, it's always awesome to talk to people and make video games. Something I wish I could do, but programming is not for me or working in any type of game engine. I've tried.
I said the same thing myself, but then after that, with the Playdate, there's so many different languages you can use, even the most basic one that they offer on their website to make games. So anyone can become a dev.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, that I think is a good spot where we can. Oh, no, display. Why are you being weird? All right. But yeah, that I think is a good spot. We can kind of wrap up this part 2 of our favorite video game trailers and soundtracks. And yeah, it was awesome having Zanya join us in part 2 of this and kind of share a couple very cool soundtracks from some Playdate games. But yeah,
Thanks for having me.
of course. And I guess kind of along with the Game Babes, just we kind of all came together through the Game Dave community. There are some cool ideas that all of us now will be kind of working for with some community ideas with Dave and his stream, and maybe even possibly other things. So it's going to be an exciting, I think, year for a lot of us kind of hanging out and working together.
I'm looking forward to it.
But
Exciting year indeed.
Oh yeah, we cooking.
And
For
yeah,
real,
well,
for real. No cap.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, we'll have to nail down because I know we've kind of talked about trying to do one of these maybe like once a month or so. So we'll have to try and get back together sometime in March and also kind of figure out what topic we want to cover. So I know we have a couple. I guess before we leave.
Are we deciding a topic now?
I wouldn't say no. If anyone in chat kind of has ideas as well. So we did soundtracks and trailers. I can remove those off. I think Msmoon has a good one. Just throw a couple of these out here and Bacon, Vinny, anyone in chat, if any of these sound interesting to you in a future one. Msmoon had recommended graphics versus art direction, which you value more, which I think is a really interesting topic. Pixel, we kind of have talked about music, but I think even kind of going more in depth into highlighting like our top 5, 10 songs. But what do you value between, I think, story, characters, gameplay?
Yeah, I don't think that was a topic we covered. And if it isn't, we probably should because I know that we all value different aspects of games differently. I'm definitely a story person and a music person. But gameplay for me, which is kind of funny to say, gameplay is actually kind of in the middle for me. It's not super huge, but I think that would be a really good topic to get into.
I think so. We won't lock this in, but I think doing that and doing kind of like we did with this one, kind of doing like two topics together. I think also your top three favorite video game protagonists would be a fun one
Ooh,
to get in there
That'd be a
too.
good one. That would be good.
that would be a good one.
So kind of maybe think about those, and I'm sure talk in our Discord and try and let everyone kind of knows probably in March when we try and come back and do episode. I don't know if we call it episode 4 or episode 5 since this is episode 3 part 2.
Uh-oh, we're starting to turn into Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah, we're going Kingdom Hearts route.
GameBabes 2.53 over 8 days.
Final deluxe.
Yeah.
Remastered.
Yeah, that well, if you ever redo a topic, it'll be remastered. Favorite video game trailers and soundtracks remastered. But yeah, that's where we'll end this episode. Again, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. Vinny, Bacon, Burden, if you're still here, I suppose I'll thank you, even though you're Canadian from the frozen wasteland.
I mean, we have a Canadian in voice chat, so
She's a good Canadian. Burden is the weird Canadian. Even though we almost hung out last weekend because he was down in Toronto. It's like, you're 5 hours away from me. But he didn't tell me until like the day before he was coming down. So it's like, you should gave me a heads up. It's negative 21 Celsius outside for him. Like, that is not a place that humans are not meant to live there, Burden.
that's so nasty.
Zanya, is it that cold where you're at? Or do you at least have some
It's a
heat?
bit warmer by me. It's about -5 right now.
That's
Because I'm
so
gonna be getting snow.
You're
It's
probably
-7 Celsius there.
getting all the snow we got kind of today. Luckily, it didn't hit us that bad here in Michigan. They're saying we were going to get a lot more. We got really like only an inch, unless a lot more came down while I was doing this podcast. He says they're thriving. You know what the first thing he told me, Pixel, when he came and hung out for like my bachelor party before the wedding? His first comment was, "You have a lot of trees down here." Because trees don't grow where he lives.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, what?
Oh, that's great.
What a weird thing to say.
That's awesome.
But yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, Burden, I'll message you probably here shortly if you're still going to be up for a bit. All right. The stream is... Oh, I just ended the stream.